Hi, Ta.
Hi, Prantik.
Hi.
Actually, Ekta is moderating another session, so she won't be here. I will be hosting it. Okay.
So there is a poll question. Can you see that as a host?
Poll questions. Yes, the critical drivers of CX. That one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I tell you, can you like uh, load that up?
Yes, I'll do that.
Can we try that once, or do
Yes,
we?
I'll just launch it. It is
Okay.
visible.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Just launch it once more.
Yes.
Not visible. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yes.
so this will be. I'll tell you when the guest speakers speak, and then
Hmm.
before the horizontal speakers start speaking,
Hmm.
we'll have this up.
Okay.
Also, I have shared two things.
Yes.
Uh, One is of link for a guidebook, and secondly, there is this feedback form. So just share both of them. Hey, hi, Vikas.
Yes, Prantik. What are you saying?
I shared a link for a guidebook to be put in the chat, and also
Yes, I have received it
the
from
feedback
Ekta.
form. Yeah.
Yes, I have received that.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Vikas,
Hello.
hi. Because your name has single A or double A, by the way, because your LinkedIn shows double A, and we were actually confused if you.
Okay. No, it's actually formally on the papers. It is just a single A, but I think I just tried some gimmick by putting another A. Others are yet to join, I believe.
Yeah, they're yet to join. I think they'll join in the next 2 3 minutes.
Okay.
Hello, welcome everyone. We will be starting in 3 to 4 minutes in the next, okay? Hello, all. Very good afternoon. On behalf of Ozontel, we welcome you all on our webinar Modernizing Enterprise CX, Enabling Agile, Efficient Contact Centers. Today, you all are joining today's session, and we look forward to make it interesting and engaging with you all. There would be a Q&A after the panel where the attendees can put the questions on the chat box from where we can take it up. Let me start by introducing our partner, Ozontel. Ozontel is an industry leader within the customer experience space, offering businesses a robust omni-channel platform to manage end-to-end communication flows. Today, we would hear interesting insights on how to equip stockbrokers with effective strategies to rethink their customer service approach and achieve remarkable outcomes. Now, I would like to introduce our moderator, Prantik Goswami, Manager Account Based Marketing at Ozontel Communications. Now, Prantik, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Sisti. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this interesting panel discussion on modernizing enterprise CX, enabling agile, efficient contact centers. My name is Prantik. I'm from the Ozontel marketing team, and today we are joined by some of industry's leading CX leaders from various industry verticals. We have two leaders from BFSI sector, we have one from healthcare, we have one for automobile, and we also have one from the car contact center industry. But before we begin on our discussion, where we would dive into the critical CX challenges faced by industries today, is what role does contact center plays in this thing, and how to assess if your on-prem solutions are the right way to go forward, or on-prem versus cloud debate that has been going on, and what's the roadmap for migration. Before we begin all this in the discussion front, I would like to have our audience introduce themselves, a short introduction so that the audience can know them better. Smita, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Smita. I head CX for Equita Small Finance Bank. I've been in this in the BFSI industry for 23 years now, and through and through been in customer service and CX related operations. That's a brief about me.
Thank you, Smita. We're glad to have you here on board. Vikas? You are on mute.
Hey, Praneeth, thank you for giving this platform, and glad to introduce myself. My name is Vikas Khandelwal, and I represent the healthcare and health insurance industry. I've been largely into this industry from last 16 years, managing various portfolios from business strategy to customer experience and the overall business management. I'm based out of Mumbai.
Thank you, Vikas. Looking forward to insights today. Kingshuk, welcome on board.
Thank you, Prantik, and happy to be here. My name is Kingshuk Sanyal. I look after the retail business at Mahindra First Choice Wheels. We are part of the Mahindra Group, and I look after the used car business here for the retail side of the business. Got around 20 years of experience, which is spanning across multiple industries, be it consulting, be it consumer, be it auto. Last few years have been in the auto space. Look after the business, customer experience, and other verticals. Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you on board. Abhijit, hi.
Hey, hi everyone, and thanks, Prantik. So myself, Abhijit Day. I'm from Axis Bank. I'm heading API banking, WhatsApp, and chatbot in digital banking division of Axis Bank. In my current role, I am managing the entire API banking product suite, the onboarding experience of all the API users. At the same time, the WhatsApp banking journeys where the actual customer experience on the bot level, right, where conversation AI is playing a huge role. That is my KRA right now. And I'm happy to be here and happy to be part of this expert panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhijit, for joining us. Looking forward to your insights on CX today. Sudhanshu?
Yeah, hi. I'm Sudhanshu Mishra from Ozontel. I'm responsible for business development and enterprise sales at Ozontel, and been with this company for close to 2 years now. And prior to that, I have close to 3 decades of experience in the IT services and IT products business across various companies. And happy to be here, happy to make acquaintance with all the panelists and be a part of this discussion. Looking forward to some exciting exchange of thoughts.
Thank you, Sudhanshu, for joining. We have a pretty diverse panel here today, and I think the insights that we are looking forward to would be really interesting to hear today. Obviously, in this world where customer expects lightning-fast responses, hyper-personalized conversations, and proactive communication at every step of the journey, cloud communication has been a part of discussion, and it is said that cloud is the future. But studies show that only 14% of companies have migrated more than 75% of the applications to the cloud. So today in this webinar, we'll discuss some of the critical challenges faced by enterprise today. What's the roadmap for them going ahead? Is cloud migration the way ahead, or are they happy with the ongoing on-premise solution, but with tech solutions, with hyper-personalization, with data security, all in coming to factors? I'm sure we'll towards the end of this webinar, we'll find an answer, or at least go towards the direction where we find an answer to this. On this note, we'll start a discussion today. Customer experience has been the defining competitive differentiator in the banking BFSI space. We have two speakers from BFSI here joining us today, and financial institutions that it is seen that institutions, BFSI companies who invest in customer experience have higher rates of recommendation, better upsell, cross-sell rates, greater wallet share. Also, the demographic has been vastly changing. A 30-year-old versus a 60-year-old would want to have different means of communication strategies, and the strategies are different. So my first question to Smita here is, what are the prominent trends in the BFSI industry that are molding the CX space? And from your perspective, what strategies do you see are the most effective to enhance the overall customer journey in the BFSI sector?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Ratnik. As far as the banking sector is concerned, we're going more and more digital, primarily because the customer doesn't want to visit the branches anymore. We are now in an era of complete digitization for all our needs, right? So we've forgotten times when we had to go to a store to get something. Now it's Swiggy or Zomato or Dunzo or Blinkit. So you name it, in half an hour you get it, right? Whatever it might be. So that's the era we are in, and customers don't really look at banking differently, right? For them, if other e-com can really get the services in just half an hour's time, then why can't I have banking related services on my fingertips? That's the ask. So we are also, putting our efforts in that direction of making all our customer journeys more and more digital, more and more easier for the customer. So that's where it's heading towards. Having said that, we do have one segment of our customers who still prefer the personalized touch, the personal interaction, and hence there is a reason for us to have both. So from the banking perspective, digitization is a big investment that all of us are making, and fintechs are rocking it, I would say. The way fintechs look at products and services and the way they offer things to the customer, banks are definitely looking at what fintechs are doing, and definitely it's a motivation for banks as well to get where fintechs are today.
Thank you, Sweta, for your insight. And definitely, as you rightly mentioned, e-commerce are leading the charge in terms of transforming CX, but I think in the entire financial sector, fintechs, definitely. Speaking of his, we have Mr. Abhijit, who is leading digital transformation process at Axis Bank. Abhijit, same question to you. What do you think are the critical touch points in the BFSI industry to deliver best CX? Also, where do you see contact centers playing a role in all this?
Hey, hi, Prantik. Thanks for the question. And if you see the business, or rather on the banking business, right? It's all about customers, right? What we are doing today, or what we are doing for last several years, we are catering banking and financial services to the end customer. We are onboarding them, we are acquiring them in our ecosystem, and once we have onboarded them, we are providing them the service, right? What all queries they have related to the product or the journeys, we are resolving it, right? We are providing them the transactional services. Now, scenario have been changed in last couple of years, where customers are they started to feel that we are different, right? And that feel we'll have to provide them, right? So you have to know your customer. You need to understand what is the customer need, what is the customer want, and what is the customer's preference, right? So there are three different segment, right? Need, want, and preference. So nowadays what I have seen, I have many peers in other banks, right? And I mean, unanimously, I have observed that if all the banks, they want to understand the customer need first, right? Based on the need, they are curating some offers, right? They are curating some nudges. Then we go into the next step where we understand that what is the want, right? And what is the preference, at what time the customer wants to have this offer, or so it's more like a hyper personalization, right? If you see the developer portal which I am managing today, although APIs as a product are very much technical, and these are indirect financial product, right? But still we are creating developer experience for our users, right? Where we ourselves are telling them that, hey, you are from a particular segment of industry, why don't you try for this API, because this API suits you, right? So this type of hyper personalization touch is very important, and that's all the banks are charging, right? Adding what Smita said, that yes, definitely fintechs, they are doing really good, right? And I have seen all the banks are doing the collaboration with the fintech, right? It's a completely win-win thing, but at the same time we need to consider the risk, right? Because when we talk about API banking, API is the main medium of doing this integration with the partners, right? And with the help of API, we are creating this open banking ecosystem. So once you give the access to the APIs, right, of to all the fintech, and the moment the data are being consented way being shared across the ecosystem, banks have very huge responsibility and accountability to store the data and to keep a stock of the data, right? Whether the data is getting misused or abused, that we need to cross check. And at this part we need to have a proper governance, and I'm pretty sure there are lots of governance came up in last couple of weeks. Even 2 weeks ago I was hearing from a very eminent official of central bank, right? And he was talking about the data governance and all, or open banking framework in that global fintech fest. So these all are the nitty-gritty, these all are the touch points which banks and fintechs are looking right now, and I'm pretty sure the roads are very not a very rosy ahead, but the end goal, the objective is clear, and we all know that where should we go, right? So that's from my end.
Thank you, Abhijit. I think we totally agree that hyper-personalization is the way forward, but I think we have to keep in mind with the data security aspect in a sensitive sector like BFSI, where financial data is has to be secure. Moving ahead, in the healthcare sector, organizations are striving to build trust, provide consultative care, and engage the patient at all steps of the journey. Not just the patient, also they would want to engage the caretakers of the patient too. It's a very communicative, collaborative patient care journey in the healthcare. And also in a offline versus online model where healthcare is also moving to a digital sector, in a sector where empathy is of utmost important, how there's a difference providing empathy in a digital sector versus providing empathy or empathizing with your patient or the patient care in online. So what are the prominent trends within the healthcare sector, because they are molding the CX space? And again, the same question to you too, what strategies do you see are most effective in improving the overall patient journey? Because you're on mute.
I think I'm audible now.
Yeah.
See, healthcare industry is experiencing a significant transformation in the entire customer experience and delivery journey. A very important difference, and see, these trends are largely driven from the technology advancement and the shifting of patient expectation. A very large and a very important critical difference which we need to realize here is, in healthcare industry, the end user, which we name it as generally as a customer, is a patient in distress. And hence, the element of empathy, emotion, or human touch becomes a very important or a paramount factor in the entire customer journey along with the technology. I personally believe healthcare experience or maybe customer experience in healthcare industry starts way before when a patient decides to avail or visit a healthcare facility or a service. Today, the entire focus of the industry is to deliver from the perspective of patient care approach, patient care centric care approach, than to a traditional model of a provider centric model. And keeping all these things in mind, in the overall CX strategy of healthcare, few things becomes very important and vital to consider, like convenience of navigation, accessibility of information to the patient, patient engagement model, one go, one stop, one go solution model and design, collaborative and coordinated service offering, digital health services which is forming it. And while doing all these things, having a consistent experience to the patient through various omni-channel which they reaches out to us. This all is possible through a very easy and smooth data management techniques only. When I say data management, it includes data interpretability, exchange of information, data privacy, or data analytics. Healthcare depends on huge data analytics and data interpretability. And hence, these data management tools and strategy becomes very important in the current scenario for healthcare organizations.
Thank you, Vikas. I think, again, even though we have people from different industries, there's one thing which is common, which is data, managing your data, analyzing your data, and using it to personalize. Moving to Kingshuk, in the used automobile space, it used to be very unorganized, and now some big players are coming and organizing the sector. And also with the organizing the sector comes the CX part, because it is said that a few years down the line, there will be only few big players ruling the market. And I think my question again is, in an industry which used to be majorly unorganized, how do you see CX being the differentiating factor? How can you ensure that a customer has a seamless experience with not only the offline retail channels, but also your online channels too?
Thank you so much, Prantik. And I hope that we are one of the few companies which stay. You mentioned few companies which are going to remain big. I hope that we are one of those few. And I'm sure that will be built on a great CX.
We hope that for you too.
So let me start with a story. I think when many of our families were young, right? And you are the youngest amongst us, right? When we were young, I think a flight ticket used to be those, I think many of us realized that booklet, you had to tear off that pink page and all of it. Our first brush with digitization was buying those IRCTC tickets, right? And now we are buying used cars, right? And what are we trying to solve for? What we are trying to solve for is ensuring that the customer trust is maintained. And that is a single biggest problem which all of us are trying to solve. How do you solve for it? Is it only through a great customer experience? Because that's what differentiates us organized players from unorganized markets. All of us are growing at much faster CAGR than the unorganized market, and hopefully that is where we see the market growing for us. We see the multiple facets of customer experience. It starts for understanding the needs for buying a customer. There is a discovery of the car. There is a booking of the car. There is a RC transfer, customer complaints, metricizing all of it like we all do through NPS and through the myriad metrics which we all use. And for me, customer experience has been at the forefront of it, because what we are trying to ensure that the customer remains at the center of all our journeys, be it the amalgamation of the online discovery coupled with the transactions we're doing online. For us, offline is still a very prevalent part of the journey. A lot of test drives all happen in an offline manner. People want to get the look and feel of the car. In addition to exploring the discovery or having the discovery of the car on an online online portal through an app or through a website. So for us, the seamless journey information, the real-time information flow, digitally capturing all the information so that there is a true omni-channel presence is extremely, extremely important to us. How do we communicate? How do we ensure that the consistency of the communication remains? It's all another critical part of the CX. And as a business leader, for me, CX is directly proportional to the word of mouth. A negative CX is even worse. It results to all of those rants on Twitter and all, which none of us can ignore anymore, right? And hence, for me to grow the business, I think customer is at the center of it. And if the customer is at the center, the great customer experience needs to be, I think it's a number one priority for all of us business leaders. And I think that's the way it is. I see the industry growing.
Thank you, Kingshuk, for your insights. Before we move on to Sudhanshu, we have a short poll for the audience to understand what they think about CX, what other driving factors. Mahima, can you put the poll question up? Request the audience to participate in the poll if they can see it. Rich data insights. Yeah, I think we can end the poll, and as expected or as it was discussed before, data insights, which everyone is talking about, personalization, which was again mentioned 2-3 times. These are seen as the critical insights, critical factors of driving CX. Sudhanshu, the industry leaders have spoken. They have given their insights on what they think are the critical factors of drivers of CX. What do you think, based on your discussions with industry experts on a day-to-day basis, what is the expectations in the industry? What are the key industry trends with respect to cloud migration, and how important a role do you see contact centers playing as drivers of CX?
Yeah, hi Prantik. Thanks for coming to me on with that question. Frankly, in today's world, which is a hyper-connected world, personalized omni-channel communications and agility are vital for businesses. Right? It's important for everybody to be on top of their data, on top of their customer experience, and while remaining flexible and agile all the time. We have seen that cloud has emerged as a transformative force in this area. There have been, over the last decade or so that cloud has been around. There have been a lot of apprehensions initially, a lot of naysayers, doubters, etc. But now, in the last few years, cloud is here to stay. Cloud has established itself as one of the major forces for transformation across businesses. And even in industries which are very sensitive and, where regulation is very high and where customer data is very protected and very important to protect, like healthcare or banking or financial services. We have seen that a large number of companies have migrated at least 75% of their applications or their workloads to the cloud. So those who are tied down with obsolete silo technologies, they are actually losing out to cloud native businesses, and a lot of new companies are actually getting born in the cloud itself. So transitioning to a cloud environment has helped businesses optimize their contact center operations also. It's not, through greater scalability, flexibility, higher security as well, multi-layered security, agility, and of course, the ability to change and
react to customer expectations quickly. But I think companies, before jumping onto the cloud bandwagon and migrating wholesale onto cloud, companies should actually take a look at their entire journey end to end. And that's when they finalize what objectives they want to achieve. Finally, at the end of the day, whatever you do, whatever transformation you go through, has to be in line with whatever your business goals are. And as Kingshuk mentioned recently, when you were speaking, that the impact of a positive experience, the customer experience, can actually result in a multiple times business advantage or business benefit. Some studies have shown that if the customer experience is positive, almost 75% customers spend more time on purchases. 91% customers make repeat purchases. And 86% customers actually recommend the brand to their friends and family and other people. Whereas if the customer experience is negative, even if it's slightly, customers quickly switch brands. And now customers have choices in every aspect, right? They're not tied down to any particular monolith or any large provider of any service. A lot of time customers also back out of their purchase. Now, this may not be relevant in some industries where it's not easy to return a product or return this, but it's becoming more and more common. And of course, customers, or as Kingshuk also mentioned, customers very loudly share their negative experiences more than the positive experiences on social media, thereby spreading a bad word of mouth. So these are some of the factors that where CX plays a role, and CX has to get aligned with the business goals and provide a positive experience while staying in line with the transformation that at the overall level that the organization has planned, whether it's cloud or any other technology. Have I answered your question, Prantik?
I think more or less, yes, definitely. But one more thing I wanted to know is, we mentioned this e-commerce leading the charge. Is it the same, like e-commerce still leading the charge, or all industries are coming on the front foot now? They all think, every conversation, do you say that, hey, we want to transform? Is it, or there is some industries who are taking a back step and some industries are 2 steps ahead? Is it something like that we have?
So this is always the case, in any kind of transformation, any new technology, any new trend that comes in, there are always, early adopters, and then there are followers and, people who join the bandwagon. And this is also giving me the entry to talk about OzoneTel. OzoneTel has been a pioneer in the cloud telephony space, started about 15, 16 years ago, and has actually, we actually started in the cloud itself. When we started our contact center solution, we never had a non-cloud solution. And our earliest customers were e-commerce companies, D2C companies, and that's where the adoption was the highest. But now, if you look at our customer base today, and we have close to 3,000 customers who are using our services, there's no industry which is not touched. Some of our biggest customers are coming from the banking and financial services, banks and NBFCs. The largest banks of the country are with us. Whether it's healthcare or insurance companies, or the pharmaceutical companies, or the diagnostics chains, almost all of them are with us. And then you also go to the other industries which are traditional in, so to say, and literally brick and mortar, as in real estate companies, they're also with us. So right now, I think there's nobody who's untouched by cloud. And as far as the contact center or the CX space is concerned, I think cloud is the way to go. Everybody, any industry, almost all the users are adopting us. Of course, e-commerce was the first to go forward. I'm happy to admit that, and some of the leading e-commerce companies in the country have been with us from the day of inception, and we've seen the growth, and we've been a partner in their growth journey. Watching them grow from a small shed to a multi-million-dollar organization, unicorn, and occupying real estate in multiple cities. So that's been our experience too.
Thank you,
Yeah, Prantik, have I answered your question now?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So, likely, I think we do see that CX is taking forefront. Cloud migration would be, if not now, somewhere down the line, almost all enterprises, all companies would be doing. But there will be certainly apprehensions, and we would want to discuss what are these apprehensions. And for sure, in the BFSI sector, we kind of know what the apprehensions would be, because it's data security and My question to both Smita and Abhijit is the same thing. Although it's important to transform the CX, but what are the major apprehensions in the BFS sector which might be a major factor of like holding it back, like holding the cloud migration right now? Smita, your answer.
Yeah, sure. So that was the case earlier. Uh, the mindset of how can we move to cloud, and predominantly led by certain regulations, which recommended that first of all the cloud servers have to be, if at all, it has to be in India. And at that point in time, I'm talking about some years back. So at that point in time, most of these servers were either not in India, or there were some challenges on those fronts. So predominantly, banks did not adopt cloud so vehemently as a e-com word due to these regulations. And if you see right now, all banks have gone for all the latest technologies that they are adopting. Forget the cloud telephony, they're going with, for their CRMs, they're going with the cloud technologies for almost all their implementations. Even for a chatbot, I'm sure Abhijit would, I'm not sure what his implementation at Axis has been, but I'm sure they are, if they've not already gone, they must be at least looking at cloud. One is the advantage. You asked me for what are the apprehensions, but I can tell you the advantages very clearly is that you really don't have to look at the infrastructure part of it. It's very scalable. So, suddenly you want to increase, you really don't have to think about where you're going to house your servers and stuff like that. So it's a big plus. However, yeah, with due, you have certain regulations around, what certifications it needs to have, and, whether this approval of, whatever are those standards that are there, those approvals should be in place. And I think that's the comfort area. So if those checklists in terms of cloud implementation are all met, that brings in a lot of comfort. And banks, not only banks, I mean, I'm sure all the BFSI regulated players definitely feel that comfort if those standards are met and the due approvals are there. So no more is there any apprehension per se, but it's just the question of taking that plunge into migration. So you've already invested in your servers. So once you bust that particular bandwidth of the server, definitely nobody wants to again put in more servers. That's when the cloud migration actually comes in.
Thank you, Smita. I think it's a mix of having the right compliances and also the cost factor, because you've already made the investment, and until you really feel the need
exactly.
to make that investment again. Abhijit, what are your thoughts on the same?
Yeah, see, what Smita said, that's completely correct. Because, I mean, I can tell you 4 or 5 years ago, that time I was with some other bank, right? And that also a very large, or probably the largest one, right? And that time, that cloud migration, the implementation of cloud was very hot topic, right? The main thing which actually hold us back was that the proper regulation, right? See, in banks, right, people are very tech savvy who are managing it, right? Every bank these days are having a complete digital team, and these digital teams are backed by the strong tech architecture team. So whatever we are thinking about today, we have a validation, we have a validator, they will validate our thought process, right? Be it a cloud, or be it a open banking framework, or be it a complete conversational AI, right? But at the same time, we also need a proper regulation, a framework through which we can validate our thought, right? Now, if you see in last couple of years, ever since that data localization issues or all those policies are in place, banks are very keen and very agile to move their applications into cloud, right? As a matter of fact, we have started our cloud migration in 2021, right? And I cannot quote the exact number, but a very huge chunk of our applications are in cloud today, right? All the modern age journeys, all the modern age technologies, those are into cloud, right? And talking about our chatbot, all of our AI driven journeys, these are also in cloud. Obviously, it's our own private cloud, right? Because now we have the complete grip, complete control. We know what is wrong, we know what is right, we know what to do and what not to, right? Because of that framework is in place right now. And central bank is also very agile. They are also guiding us these days, right? So cloud on, whether we should go to cloud or not, that's not a question, because we all know the answer, right? The question is internally whether we are ready or not. I can tell you, banks like us and these banks where there are 25, 30 years old bank, we have large chunk of data. There are many legacy applications still are there, right? So to move it to a complete new ecosystem, it's a challenge, right? For example, I just saw there is one poll happen and everybody is talking about the data richness, right? Now, the biggest challenge in data richness is the data silos. In large organizations where multiple heterogeneous applications are there, right? Maybe I'm getting into more technical, but it's a fact, right? I'd like to share my experience here. So all these old and legacy applications, the nature of data, the data structure are different, and these are silo data. Putting into a data lake architecture. So first you need to create a data lake architecture, then you move that data lake to a proper cloud. So there are multiple steps you need to perform before you are doing the cloud migration. For the new age organizations, it's a bit easier. Probably that is the reason why all the e-commerce, they have moved to the cloud migration in more faster way than us. But we are also transforming, we are also changing, and that's how the road are right now.
Thank you, Vikas. I think you also gave us some insights into what should be a roadmap going ahead, which is also a point of discussion we'll discuss a bit later.
So Prantik, there is one person who's raised their hand for quite some time. Marhaba Syed.
Yeah. Marhaba, can you type your question in the chat box? I will take it up for sure, because I did not see a question.
I think she has written it. So her question is, no, it's Muneza said.
That's Moneja. That's related to personalized marketing. I saw that question. I thought I'd take it towards the end. Marhaba, if you are there, just okay. We'll move on and hope that Marhaba can, we should not want to unmute. So moving ahead, like banks, again, data security, because patient information is also of utmost importance, like sensitive patient information. And also what we know is healthcare organizations also work with multiple external partners. You have your insurance companies, you might have your different branches, your OPD departments, all these departments. So are the apprehensions similar in the healthcare industry when it comes to cloud migration? Or
I heard Smita and Abhijit saying, and I agree, concur with them. Cloud migration and these technologies are gone are those days when these technologies used to be looked upon with an apprehensions. I don't know, apprehension is the right word for saying it. See, healthcare industry, like many other sectors, is definitely considering cloud migration as one of the tool or strategy to increase the efficiency, productivity, or the entire customer experience strategy out there and scalability. However, there happens to be some, rather than apprehension, I would call it as in pre-checks, which an healthcare industry would like to, do it prior to getting into this kind of decision making. There's a little differentiation when we talk about any financial institution and current situation of the healthcare industry. Now, as you correctly mentioned, healthcare industry or as a healthcare is a very large domain where there are multiple stakeholders offering differentiated services. Till date, maybe few years ago, all were working into their separate silos. Now, the current transformation in the healthcare industry is forming a larger holistic health management ecosystem, wherein these HMOs are creating partnership uh, and bringing together maybe a coordinated patient care service, partnering with right from beginning from a health insurer to a health financing, health funding to primary healthcare, tertiary, nursery, and so for digital health, these things. And when we see that these are differentiated stakeholders, data becomes very important for us. And hence, the checks, what I would probably like to put across is something from a data privacy, data security angle, a data management angle. From it, as I think Abhijit and Smita rightly mentioned, compliance and regulation becomes also a very important part when we do all these kind of decision into migration and all. Then from a healthcare angle, we also have a lot of other, maybe points where we check around is on the flexibility of a customization. The integration complexities with the differentiated multi-stakeholder systems and omni-channels. Now that becomes very important for us, data interportability, data exchange through that. And that is what the integration complexity is, something which we have to take, which we have to take in a very considerable manner. So that's something which probably from a healthcare industry we would like to look, and we normally look for maybe a future proofing from the perspective of from the perspective of adaptability to the future changing technology. Now, if you see in healthcare, the technology is transforming very quickly and frequently. If you see from a digital equipment to a digital service to a digital a way of delivering and to a digital way of receiving engagement models. And hence, future proofing from perspective of adaptability is pretty much important. So these are a couple of things apart from the entire cost efficiency model which we have to work upon, from a office-based premise to in cloud migration. This data management, scalability, flexibility, customization, integration complexities, and specifically the BCP and the DR capabilities, which has to cover any risk of a data loss while doing all these things. That becomes pretty much important for us.
Thank you, Vikas. And I think totally some valid points about scalability and BCP, which are a norm now. And I think also BCP came into major 4-point post-COVID when everyone had to move to the cloud suddenly. And I think that was also a turning point for the entire industry, and everyone suddenly, there are advantages, of course, but it was also a major push in the industry. Kingshuk, data leakage in your industry, where it's also highly unorganized, has seen as a major concern. Also, there are your different business models, your offline retail chains, you have your digital channels, and your retail channels would be spread across country. Do you see an advantage of cloud-based solution here in managing your leads and with like assigning them to the right dealer, right agent? Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Prantik. I think we migrated to cloud some time back, and we're in fact using Ozentel solutions. So I think for us, data leakage is still a big problem, right? So let me not circumvent around it that it's been 100% solved or we've been solved. It's a very unorganized market which we are dealing with, and for us, data leakage is still one of the problems which we are still trying to solve. Have we made progress in the last few years? Yes. Is there a lot of work to be done? Again, a resounding yes to that. So for us, it starts with the process of, as you rightly mentioned, that mapping the right leads to the right dealers, right agents, having a proper communication flow around it, understanding what has been communicated to each customer, putting onto a solution where people can see and talk about each other. Having said that, masking the customer information is an extremely critical part of it. So none of our agents, none of our dealers can see actually the customer phone numbers or the customer details. It ensures that there is a privacy of the customer details. It ensures that leakage is reduced to a large extent. What we also ensure through the crowd telephony system, the contacts are called through the personal phone numbers, maybe called through that telephony system. Obviously, data hierarchy, ensuring that the right set of people get the right set of data, it's super important. So these are some of the ways in which cloud has helped us and in solving the data leakage problem. It's still a problem, and still we're trying to solve it in multiple ways. But there's been some initial steps taken by it, and cloud has been a big enabler in that journey. Thanks, Prantik.
Thank you. Thank you, Kinshuk. I think more or less the theme today has been data and data security. But I think cloud offers more advantages too. It's highly scalable. It's very flexible too. And on updating an on-prem solution versus updating a cloud, the timeline would be different. And Sudhanshu, what do you think are the critical considerations on when enterprise has to reassess their on-premise solution, and what can be the compelling reasons for them to move to the cloud here?
Yeah, thank you, Prantik. That's a question close to my heart, and coming from Ozontel, actually for a long time, on-premise contact centers were seen as the only robust and reliable way of giving an organization, a sense of control, a sense of ownership over data, which is of course very important. Hardware and software also, they were in control of the technology. But as technological changes accelerated and businesses found that these solutions were cost ineffective, cumbersome, and to scale and slow to adapt, and sometimes like sunk investments, because they required high upfront capital investments. They were specific to a location and not very flexible. They required continuous upgrades and maintenance. And there was a lot of dependence on the IT function also, IT functions and their partners, and integration with the newer technologies, newer, applications was always a challenge. So these were some of the reasons why the cloud-based contact center started to become relevant to people. And then came in the advantages that it brought to the table. Business continuity. Can on-premise system provide the kind of continuity that cloud can provide? And then we saw a very good, real first-hand taste of this during COVID, where some of our customers were able to move their operations to work from home employees when there was a complete lockdown imposed in the country, and without employees having to go to work, especially the customers who are providing essential services, organizations providing essential services like healthcare, like even FMCG delivery companies and food services, and many of them were able to move their operations or practically overnight without employees having to step out of home because cloud was available. So that kind of flexibility, scalability, agility, you do not get with on-prem solutions, right? So that business continuity is important. Agility, as I said already, on an on-premise solution with technology, it takes longer to scale or add any new process. It's not easy to innovate and include new technologies, new applications. It tends to work in silos. The future readiness is also compromised because with cloud, you are no longer responsible for the concurrency of your technology. It is the responsibility of the cloud provider to make sure that happens. And of course, scalability, as we all know, in cloud you pay for only what you use, whereas on an on-premise solution, your investment is sunk into a large infrastructure occupying real estate as well as hardware and software, for which you have to pay whether you use it or not. And especially e-commerce companies, we got a taste of this with e-commerce companies who have specific seasons where there are seasonal increase in their loads and hits on their servers, and the call volumes during festival seasons, or for educational organizations during examination season or admission season. Suddenly there's a spurt in the call volume and hits on their servers, and that scalability can be provided only by cloud. And with on-premise, you are actually lost for size or the scalability that you need. So these are some of the imperatives that have really helped. And there are other reasons, of course. I can go on and keep talking about it. While it provides the infrastructural flexibility, it also provides the financial flexibility, less dependence on IT, because which is good for business managers at times, and for the organization also, because they can focus on their core competence. Now, security and compliance. Smita mentioned that earlier, the aspect of data remaining within the country and the security of the data were always under a bit of a cloud. Cloud, not in the sense of the cloud we're talking about, but the doubtfulness of the whole thing. So that has been taken care of, and now there's much more compliance and security available than what you can actually enforce on premise. So these are some of the factors. I can go on, but in the interest of time, I think I'll just stick to these some of these top factors, and I'm happy to elaborate on them if we go forward. And these experiences have come to us from a wide range of our customers in the financial services sector, in the healthcare sector, and of course the e-commerce and retail sector.
Thank you, Siddhant. So I think some very interesting points and certainly a compelling case, and which moves to us to the next and the final question for all speakers. What should be the ideal roadmap enterprises should look at, or what factors should organizations cover when they're planning the migration of contact centers to the cloud? I mean, would it be key and important processes first, or do they test it out on a smaller processes? Do they go small? Do they go big? What is the cost impact? Do they consider a cost? So what's the ideal roadmap? What's the timeline for it? Anything. So the people who have already started the journey can definitely, they have some timeline in their mind too. And I think we'll again start off with Smita on what's the ideal roadmap and key factors organizations should consider while planning the migration.
Yeah, so as far as most of the banks are concerned, most of them definitely have the on-prem solution because they've been there in the industry for quite some time, and some of them have definitely migrated their telephony, and the way they've done it is also not lock, stock, and barrel, completely shift. But what they've done is the new processes which they are evaluating, they have first move their new processes into the cloud while the existing processes remain. So they learn from how stable it is, etc., that experience, and then is when slowly they move the legacy systems and the existing systems to the cloud. So that's typically how it's done. And so as I would say, first it appears to be a backup, and then slow migration is the way we do the adoption at banks.
Abhijit, your thoughts?
Such a topic which if I start it will never end. I can talk about three commandments, right? This can be the holy grail. So one is that first you need to identify the API first architecture, right? API first architecture in on-prem and API first architecture in cloud are two different approach, right? So if you see, I mean, all the old banks where these legacy applications are working, right? There are many connectivity or integration has happened on DB to DB connectivity, right? So you need to first build an API ecosystem internally, right? Then it will be easier for you to migrate all those services to cloud. Second is a database approach, right? Where you'll have to identify all the data. So if you are doing a large scale migration, right? First of all, you should go ahead with a MVP approach where most a viable product kind of approach where small chunk of data you need to migrate first. You need to see whether these data are being converted into any silos or not, right? If there are any data silos in your organization, first you need to identify and put it in a one single data lake. So one single point data architecture you need to build. The third one is that once your data and APIs are sorted, then you start migrating those applications which are having less impact on the data, right? If you on the very first day, if you're planning to move your CRM or your core banking solution into cloud, then I mean there is something you need to think about, right? You need to first migrate applications where the least customer experiences are being impacted. For example, all those query based solutions, right? Now if you're talking about that contact center, in contact center also contact centers which are in on-prem, right? Those are connected via API. So it is easier to migrate those applications, but also at the same time you need to see the data, right? How much data you are having in those applications. So the small term approach where MVP kind of migration, that is always a recommended one, and also the API driven migration.
Thank you, Abhijit. I think API first migration, then database approach, and then the smaller processes is what we think or what banks think the way forward is. Because do healthcare organizations think the same way as banks, or is it a different approach? You're on mute.
See, I think both of them has touch based majorly the very important points which both of Smita and Vijit spoke about: data transfer and how the data has to be transferred, in what mode, what manner, what kind of criticality it will have. Looking upon also a downtime, uptime, kind of an environment. What is going to be a downtime for us? And also from an user or an agent adaptability from the migration, what kind of changes and what kind of adaptability which we have to build upon. So I think what I believe is a kind of a hybrid approach initially, wherein non-critical kind of processes start moving up, and we start doing a testing of around it and how does it works around, because integrating with the complex system and with omni-channel or multi-channel, ultimately leading to a larger migration, and it has to be seamless. So I think a hybrid approach is something which is advisable in from a healthcare perspective. As an organization, we have also taken up this strategy of migration in the cloud, and that's the need of the hour in the longer run. So yes, that's what I believe.
Thanks, Vikas. I think, Mr. Surrender, we got your question. We'll pick this up after this round. And I think this is in line with what we are discussing today. I think I'll share the question which anyone can pick it up. I think as there are a lot of in-house solutions developed by organizations which is from years of learning, shifting to a new system has a lot of apprehension in loss of business sync. So how do we deal with this apprehension while migrating to the cloud is, I think, what he meant. Anyone? So it's more about in-house systems being in place and migrating to the cloud. How do you ensure that the business sync is there, no data is lost, and how to deal with this apprehension while thinking about migration or making the migration plan?
Prantik, you want me to take this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks. See, as I told you, why first we need to understand why the data are being lost, right? Data doesn't get lost just because of we are doing some migration. Data losses because we have not kept the data in a proper way, right? If my organization having a proper data structure, right? If we are managing a proper data lake architecture where in one single dashboard I can see that the nature of the data, where the data is stored, right? Then whenever I'm doing any migration or I'm doing any data room exercise on those data, right? I'll not face any problem. So first of all, we need to create a complete data lake architecture where the entire organization's data should be in one common format and it should be in one single place, right? Then the second one is the domain centricity. Normally what happens, whenever we are dealing with any data, we just consider the application which I'm migrating and the data chunk of that particular application, but there can be some correlated or interconnected data, right? Those are getting lost in time of migration. So you need to understand which all applications or product processor applications are interconnected for that migration. So these two are the common focus area where we can think about the cloud migration.
Thank you, Abhijit. And I hope, Mr. Surrender, your question was answered by Mr. Abhijit. Moving on with the same question, Kingshuk, your thoughts on what should be the roadmap?
Yeah, in fact, we have gone through a very, I think now everybody is moving towards cloud, but I think we adopted it some time back. And for me, it varies from companies to companies, varies from sector to sector, from organization to organization. What we started from doing was actually not the easiest process and not the most complicated process, both. We started with something what we called as at a MVP, or the representative process, quote unquote representative process, which we felt was something which will give us enough gravitas to the entire solution. People would be affected by it. If you just bring an absolutely known core solution of it, you can make as many rounds of changes to it. But what we started by doing was moving a representative solution from on-prem to cloud, understanding what were the challenges being faced, resolving them, developing a cadence, the typical program management, project management part you do. But that's, I think, depends on sector to sector. We were not operating in a critical industry like maybe a banking or healthcare services. So we adopted that process, which was, as I said, more representative, more similar to the other processes rather than something which is super complicated or super simple. And that's what the journey has been for us. And then we've progressively moved towards the more difficult parts.
Thank you, Kingshuk. Sudhanshu, now, what do you think? I know this might be a long answer because you have to factor in all the industries together, and based on the experience of working across different industries, what has been the roadmap for some of our clients who have migrated to cloud with us, or what are the timelines they look, or what processes do they look into first?
So we've actually done a study with almost all the industries where we are present and spoken to a lot of our customers. I don't want to name anyone in particular, but using the inputs that we've received, we've kind of developed a small framework and the steps that companies should adopt. And I think it's more or less in line with what Kingshuk and Abhijit mentioned in answer to this question. The same concerns, similar concerns, I should say, were expressed by our existing customers also, and they when they did that journey. And while I can talk more about it, but basically, the framework that we talk about is a 5-step framework. You first assess your source system and build a business case, identify dependencies, and see what are the kind of, it's like analyzing for any kind of change. Then prepare, by doing a pilot, by ensuring there is compliance and enough KPIs are adequately tested. Then you design and accordingly plan for resources and keep a data backup, needless to say, in the design to make sure that there are no slip-ups at any stage. And that's when you define the cloud requirements. After that, you deploy, you migrate your data, you migrate your applications, you validate, document the whole journey, and then automate for DevOps and agility, as the case may be, depending on what all you're planning to do. And then once it is done, you stabilize it, you optimize it, you test it, and keep improving. And you keep training. You train your agents to use it. So this is a broad outline. But in terms of the critical factors that you need to evaluate, there is, of course, you start with the architecture. You see what is a robust migration architecture is critical for cloud migration. It is important to have a clear understanding of the complexity of your on-premise setup. And this is relevant for not just contact center or customer experience related migration, but any migration. The detailed understanding of your on-premise architecture is necessary. In terms of cloud, as the previous speakers mentioned, you have the option of going to a private cloud, a hybrid cloud, or a public cloud where you're just a tenant on the same hardware, depending on what kind of need you have, what kind of workloads you're migrating. And that's another assessment that you have to make when you go forward. Then, of course, you have to look at when it comes to the CX part of it, the total cost of ownership is important. What are the costs of the existing infrastructure? What are the running costs? And what are the costs of staying with it? And as against that, what are the costs of the new cloud environment that you're going in for? The CFOs will look at this with a with a microscope to make sure that the costs are kept in check, or there's adequate return on the investment that you're making. Then some of the other factors that you have to consider are, of course, the interoperability of your applications with your, all the adapters that you're using, the APIs that you have. Security and compliance. There are different security and compliance norms in different industries. In healthcare, there's HIPAA and GDPR and the rest. And of course, in the banking and financial services, there are so many. One of the banks that we were working with came up with a checklist of 128 compliance points that we had to adhere to before we could, even submit a proposal for a cloud-based contact center. So these are some of the things, and needless to say, the cloud also offers you, as far as CX is concerned, it is future ready. It offers you a lot of the latest CX elements that you're looking for: the omni-channel, virtual assistants, conversational and voice analytics, AI, inclusion of AI in your agent insights and your entire data analysis. Workforce optimization, of course, also comes into play. So these are some of the areas that you look at when you're looking at migration. And at OzoneTel, we have really gone about it in a scientific way. We have helped some of our customers do it, and there are more than one case studies in different industries where we have implemented this. Today, one of our largest customers in the BFSI segment sector has more than 20,000 agents deployed on a cloud-based contact center spread across the country. Some of them are field agents, of course, salespeople on the field, on the ground, and then many others who are operating from a contact center or the customer's branches and offices. Likewise, some of our e-commerce customers have multi-city operations, but they provide the uniformity of CX, and they're able to, do load sharing across locations, across centers, thanks to the cloud option. So these are some benefits that are there, and I might have mentioned a lot of jargon, but just trying to keep it quick. Happy to get into more detail and answer any questions around this.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. I think I don't see any audience question, but I see 2 hands raised. So if you have any questions to our panelists, quickly put them in a chat box. But overall, I think we are at the end of the discussion today. We started off with the common CX challenges or the trends which are going on in various industries. We had I think usually in our webinars, we do more vertical focused webinars where we have speakers for one vertical, but today we had speakers from various verticals. And even though the processes are different, the customer journey somehow is same. And we all across all industries, we found that data security or data was one important factor for everyone. And I think what cloud offers is not just scalability, it offers flexibility. And we do see that not just cloud migration of contact centers, cloud migration of all processes is the way forward. And I think in this discussion, we try to figure out what can be an ideal roadmap. And I would like to thank all the panelists for their valuable insights today and for also giving us the time on a Friday evening and sharing all their real life experiences, the industry experiences, and some key insights into this exciting topic, which is very close to us, being from the contact center space. And I would like to really thank everyone for their time and for the insights. And also I'd like to thank the audience for attending these, and please share your feedback on the same. We'll share the feedback from also on mail, and also it's on the chat board. So please share your feedback so that we can do better. We can always be better than what we are delivering right now, and get more insights from you to what important topics we can have post webinars on. So in all, thank you everyone. Have a great weekend ahead. And yeah, that's me saying
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Pleasure meeting you.